Welcome everybody to Brick to Click. This is our webinar number 4, Engaging Students Online. It's presented by Lighthouse Therapy. I'm Janet Courtney. I'm the Speech-Language Pathologist and a CEO of Lighthouse Therapy. With us today, we also have Caroline Nuttall, Catherine Fugate, PhD, and Frederick Shegog. And they will be presenting some sections after me today. So without further ado, let's get started, and we'll talk about how we can engage students. Well, now that we've gotten them online, right? How do we keep them engaged? So let's first talk about what exactly student engagement means. So I pulled this from the edglossary.org, and it's just in education, what student engagement means. Refers to a degree of attention, curiosity, interest, optimism, and passion that students show when they are learning or being taught, which extends to a level of motivation they have to learn and progress in education. So getting them wanting to participate in online learning is really important, obviously. So now let's think about how you engage your students and how is online different. So the first hurdle is simply getting them to log in, getting the kids to come to your classrooms. And I'm sure as you guys have been doing this, you're seeing those kids that will come and those that won't come. They didn't choose this. They're not necessarily not attending because they don't want to. They may be not attending because they just don't have the confidence to work in this modality or understand how or what you're wanting them to do. So we need to find out what's okay for that family and find out ways to help them to get online. One thing to consider is having webinars for parents on your systems or your particular, if you're using Zoom or if you're using Google Classroom or whatever. Some of them you think they may already know, but if they don't, it's always good to just reach out. And I was at another webinar. I've been trying to attend some of the free ones that other people are putting on just to see what's out there. And one of them I was on yesterday said they are finding that reaching out individually to families has significantly increased the engagement that they're seeing. So if you are reaching out, great. If you're not, reach out to those families. It's a big part of what we do to make sure that they're engaging. The next one is a survey of questions that we have just to try to get a pulse on where the families feel that they are with your attempts so far. This is just a suggestion. This isn't anything that you have to do, but it just will be really revealing. And actually, you guys are going to get a survey probably tomorrow from me because I was like, oh, what a great idea. I need to find out how we're doing with this webinar series. But you need to find out where your families are. Some of you probably already know and you don't need to do this, but some of you, you're just like, I'm not even really sure what's going on with my family. So these are just some questions about how many children do you have? What grade levels are they at? How do you feel the school is communicating or your teacher's communicating with you? How confident, here's that question about how confident are you feeling about helping your child with online learning? And where are you struggling and how can we support you? And then just an open-ended question, what do you need or want from your teacher to know about your experience online? And I think that, giving them open-ended questions like that will give you some really good insight into what they're feeling. And obviously not everybody's going to respond, but we do our best to try to get them and just give them an opportunity to communicate with you that way. So next is they're not online mindset. So this is their home environment. They are things that you can think about as far as like where they are in being online versus not being online. This is their home, obviously. Are they getting out of bed? Are they going to school? My own son is a senior, and we had to do a schedule to say, you know what, you got to start getting out of bed by 9. It's, you can't sleep until 11 o'clock every day. That's going to throw your whole schedule off. So making sure that they're going to bed at a decent time and getting up. Are they getting out of bed to come to your classes? Are they just in survival mode? I was reading something today that Starbucks had put out that, there's so many people that are hungry right now, and because they don't have the have food and they don't have a job. And I just worry about those kids that are just really, they're not coming because all they're trying to do is just get through the day. The other thing is there's lots of ways that you can set reminders or call them to get them to a session, remind them about a session. Our platform, for example, we set up an appointment and then they get an email reminder 24 hours ahead of time. I know that Google Calendar will do that as well. So that's something to consider. And no, you guys know your kids. No, you're going to know which students need additional support and which of those kids are just going to be your self-starters. They're just going to go and they're going to do and they're going to be great. Those aren't the ones that need you to hold their hand. The ones that really need you are the ones that just are struggling. So, and then you have to make it something that they want to participate in. So when they come to your class, it goes back to marketing. What do we as human beings see as our ability to want to do something? Giving them rewards, giving them extra credit for coming during your live lessons, using a cliffhanger. We're not going to talk about that till tomorrow, or till next week. Come back next week. Whatever makes things exciting for them, whatever you can do to get the kids excited about coming to your lessons is great. And then the second thing is schedules for online teaching sessions. We've talked a little bit about this. We've touched on it. I had a friend that I talked to, and she has 2 kids in Florida that are doing online services, but they ended up with 5-hour lessons back to back because the teachers hadn't coordinated their schedules because they were a little bit older kids, but they were like having to go to all of these live lessons rather than spreading them out through the week. So try to think about what's the best time for the majority of your students, but also works in your schedule, and coordinating those schedules with other teachers. Now, the little ones, it's not as big of a deal because you're the only one who's going to be working with them. But for your middle school and your high school kids, having different teachers for different subjects, just kind of coordinating that becomes really important. And then we really recommend, and this is, again, something I'm seeing across the board and what others are doing as well, and what I've seen in online school is recommend office hours. You have a set time every week where those kids or those parents can come and either call you, email you, reach out to you on a Zoom chat if they want to, just to have time to get those questions and those struggles that they're having that you naturally did in a classroom into what you're doing online. So, and then the next part is obviously recording those sessions. Said it before, say it again. They need to be, they're not going to be on your schedule. The kids are going to be learning when they are learning. Not everyone will make it to your live sessions. So you need a place for the students to access those previously recorded sessions. And when you do that, think about how you're going to have them access it. How are they going to find the right one, whether it's by subject or by, you specifically giving the title of the subject that they're using for that session, or it's English but we're doing the lesson 16, so English lesson 16, or however you want to organize it. But just have a clearinghouse or a place where they can go, where they can find those lessons so that they can learn what you were trying, the points that you were trying to make, so they know how to do the lessons. And then lastly, I want to talk about, so what do you do when? So you're in your classroom. What do you do when behaviors pop up? First of all, and I tell this to all of my therapists too, when I'm working with them and getting them going from a home setting or a school setting to an online setting, is you're the boss. Set the expectations in your classroom. Make sure that they know what you expect for them and how you expect them to behave. You set them in your classroom when you're in a brick and mortar setting, right? When you're in your classroom at school, you have to do those same things. Set those expectations in your live lessons. Reward positive behaviors. Obviously, you do that as well. It's like, good job, Tommy. I'm so glad that you got that done. But also have a warning system. Make sure that they know that if they don't behave themselves, that there's going to be consequences. And then lastly, work with the parents. So, and I've talked too long, so we're going to move on and let Caroline go. She's going to go next and She's going to talk about parents and, how you can help them to be connected and all that goes with that. So I'm going to pass it over to Caroline Nuttall. Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you, Janet. This first slide is a handout that I created. It talks about what an engaged student looks like. Down the left side has, what do I look like as an engaged student during an online live class or session? And then the right side is, how am I an engaged student during the independent work that I would do at home? This is kind of a fun way that parents and teachers can go through these bullet points with the students, have the student kind of have ownership with what the expectations are for them. I know that I can go through these and make sure that I'm ready for the day, and the parents can make sure that their students are ready to get moving and join their online classes. This flyer will be available to everybody after this session. While helping the parents with their students and making sure that their students are meeting those expectations, talk about when the online classes are, when the offline classes, what is expected of the students, when are things due. Work with the families to create a schedule that works for them. Every family has different responsibilities, different access. Some families only have one computer that they're sharing. Work with the parents to be able to make sure that anytime that a session is scheduled, they have the ability to join you whenever possible. Part of those online sessions can be an office hour specifically for parents, whether or not the student is in the room. During those office hours, you can talk with families, consult with them, give them strategies on how to work with their students. Maybe a student is struggling being engaged in those offline activities, giving them suggestions on how to work with them. Always give them grace. They're going through a lot. You as the teacher are going through a lot. This is a huge change in everybody's life. So if someone misses something or just is frustrated, make sure you give them grace to be able to get through that frustration and come out the other side successful with you as a partner. And then if your parents are wanting to do this, create a parent network. Obviously, you need permission of the parents to share contact information, but if the parents want to meet together, either with you, the teacher, or on their own to discuss any concerns that they have, any problems that they're facing that they'd like other suggestions from other families, they can do that together as a group and really feel like they have that support system going. A well-care check. So all of us as teachers, we're mandated reporters, so we need to make sure that our students are feeling safe, there's no concerns for their well-being. So the way we do that is a well-care check. We need to be able to talk with our families at least weekly. That may be during the live session. You can be interacting with one of the students, kind of checking to make sure they're okay, they're talking to you, they're not upset. If they have a video camera and they're willing to turn it on, that's a great way to do a well-care check, making sure there's no danger around them. If you haven't heard from them or they're not logging in regularly to your live sessions, I would suggest doing a one-on-one, either a video call or a phone call. If they don't have video, if they're not sure or uncomfortable utilizing a video, you can do a phone call. Just make sure, excuse me, that you hear your student's voice. It's not the parent talking on behalf of the student. That way you can really hear from a student if there's any concerns. Some teachers even have a safe word or something to be able to utilize in case they're in trouble that might not signal to a parent or another person in the room that they're concerned and need some support. Some of the experiences that I've seen aren't necessarily that someone in the house is unsafe. It could also be that the student themselves is going through something that they need additional support and they're not sure how to ask for that support. So just being able to do that connection with that family, making sure that the student has everything they need to mentally and emotionally get through the day, basically. And then during some of those live hours, have conversation with the families and the students, talking about what's going on in the world. You can share current events, anything that's you're hearing in terms of what's going on with the school district, our individual school, our community, cities and states. Talk to them, make sure that they're aware of what's going on, and always be that supportive kind of shoulder to be able to answer any concerned questions and be there for the students as part of their team, to be able to make sure that they feel like they're heard and they understand what's going on for them.
Okay, I got to unmute myself. So next we're going to have Frederick Shegog talk to us about anxiety. And I'm so excited to have him join us today because, you know, it's something that all of us are feeling. And so Freddie, if you want to go ahead and tell us what you have for us. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And thank you for having me. Very honored and thankful and just blessed overall to be here. First and foremost, thank you for all joining us. Right now during COVID, one of the biggest hot topics is mental health and anxiety. And what I have learned in my life, because I have anxiety, is that once I accepted my diagnosis, I had to change my mentality. It's a mindset. And with that mindset, I had to understand that I attack it, it does not attack me anymore. And I just know in dealing with anxiety, the best way to do that is to put yourself in the best possible position before you deal with the stressors. So for example, I know that it's very important for me to use the tools that are available to me before I get into any work I'm going to do. Because I know with anxiety, a lot of it comes down to the nerves, you know, the rejection, the what if. So what I do is I put myself in a position to where I'm my best me, meaning I make sure I have a good meal before I get into the online world. I make sure I set aside time to where I can do yoga, whether I can journal, meditation, anything that's going to calm me before I get into the stressors. The other part of it is having a plan for the day. I tell the students that I speak to when I'm fortunate enough to travel is that those that do not have a plan to fail. And the reality of it is Rome wasn't built in a day, right? So I know if I have a plan, when things go wrong, I have a backup. And then as the day ends, I can look and say what did work and what didn't work. Another key thing to this whole situation with anxiety as well is connecting with others that deal with the same circumstances. You know, I tell students all the time, they say, well, I want to be an engineer or I want to be a teacher. Okay, well, you want to be a master in your field, correct? Yes. Okay, how do you become a master? You study other masters. So having a circle of people who have the same situation or dealing with the same stressors you are doing, being able to connect with them, being able to talk to them about how they're getting through that will make life much, much easier. And I want to end with this. One of the things we're all learning through COVID is that health is the true wealth. And the best way to be as healthy as possible is to use healthy tools so that you get healthy rewards. And just remember, anxiety and mental health is not a disgrace. It is a true illness. And there are ways and there are advances and there's research out here proven of tools and tips that can help you. So I wish you all a good day and thank you for letting me share that on my topic of anxiety and mental health.
Thank you, Freddie. I appreciate it. So now we're going to open it up. We always go 20 minutes and then 10 minutes. It was supposed to be 15 and 15, but it never does. So we try to pack it in as quickly as we can, but you know, we always seem to run to 20 and 10. So please feel free to ask questions. We've got some great people here that have some great information that we've touched on. How can we help you? Feel free to ask a question in the Zoom chat room. And then as we get those questions, we will answer them. So I will open the floor up to questions. And if you want to turn on your video, if you don't want to, or your audio, and you want to ask a question with your mic, you can do that as well. I'm okay with that as well. So. We must be doing a really good job, guys. Nobody has had questions today. Nobody had questions the last time either. I don't know is everybody just kind of feeling like they're getting it? Okay, so there we go. Someone actually, Alice is asking, can you address how you deliver OT service in pediatrics? Lighthouse Therapy, my company, we actually provide OT services, and we are actually going to be delving specifically into the topic of related services, OT, speech therapy, occupational therapy, and behavioral mental health services in webinar number 6. But I can give you a little snippet right now. For OT, what we do is generally we have 2 cameras, and that way the OT can see the child, and then also have a camera at the tabletop, so they can see what the child is doing. And the nice thing about that is you can see if there's any frustration or anxiety or yay, I got it, and still see what they're doing at the table. The other thing that we do as a company is we send an OT kit out. So that particular pen that you have, or that particular adaptive piece of equipment that you have, is the exact same one as they have on the other side. So what I'm working with on my side, wherever I am in Michigan, and I'm working with a student in California, has exactly that same adaptive piece of equipment, so that the parents don't have to run around trying to find those particular things that the OT wants them to have. So we have that, and we have it for sensory and fine motor, and we have it for younger students and for older students. Okay, so next question. Would you please remind me where it has been on the rise? Okay, whoops, let me see that whole question. I don't see the whole question on my side. Okay, let's see. Would you please remind me where I can find your list of available webinars? Yes, in the chat on here, you will get the webinars that we've had in the past. They're all on our YouTube channel, and we also send them out to you via email. Everybody that registers, and not everybody that registers can attend, and we get that. So anybody that's registered for this webinar will also get a link to that particular one, and then the other ones, you can find them right there. So that's great. Freddie, let's have you do this one. I struggle with anxiety, and lately it has been on the rise. I'm grateful to learn how to put it in check. Oh, okay, it's not a question. It's just great. I'm glad that was helpful. Do you have any ideas on keeping a child engaged during an online PT session? Yeah, we're going to talk about that again on week 6, which is in 2 weeks from today. But a lot of it is having different activities, and having, depending on how well they attend. I usually, as a speech therapist, I would always have like between 3 and 5 different activities for them. And so if one of them really bombs, we've all been there, had a session or a lesson, we were really excited about that, the kids were going to love it, and it just bombed. I have a backup. I have a couple of backups. And the nice thing about this, you can take a break and do we call it a brain break, and do something that's maybe not physical, so that then we can go back to whatever it is that we're asking the child to do. Okay, so how do you co-teach with other teachers in school if they're opposed to it? It's for the welfare of the student. That would be, for one thing, I would say, why are they opposed? What are they opposed to? Are they just opposed to the fact that it's online and they're struggling with even getting over that? Or are they opposed to being in the same classroom? Figuring out whenever you're with somebody, you try to figure out what's the opposition, what's the underlying cause of why they don't want to work with you, and see if we can figure that out. And then maybe some of that opposition will go away. If that's not it, and they just want to do it on their own, I would say go beyond yourself to your administration and see if you can have them help you with some of that. I have a child with special needs, and he does not like being online. Yeah, online. How do I help him become engaged? He doesn't like being online because of the camera. Do it without the camera. He doesn't like being online because he doesn't like the computer. Set him away from it and see if you can get him to, we've got this social distancing now. See if you can do some of that. Maybe, the computer's here right in front of me, but I don't like being this close to it. So maybe I'm going to pull myself back enough so that I don't have to necessarily see myself or hear myself. Sometimes it's just, kids just don't like seeing or hearing themselves. I mean, all of us can attest to when you hear your own voice recorded. I don't like my voice. I don't like hearing it. It doesn't sound like it sounds in my head. So is that part of what the problem is? Just figuring out what you can do and working with the teachers and working with the rest of that team to figure out how you can best do it. We have one student right now who an accommodation for their IEP is that therapy right now is happening on the phone. And then we're doing a couple of minutes online, just trying to desensitize him to being on the computer, not even turning on the camera, just being online, and then say, and rewarding him for like, okay, we did 15 minutes on the phone and now we're going to move to 15 minutes online. And it may not even be 15 minutes. Okay. And I'm losing track of where I'm at. So I apologize if I miss a question. You guys are doing a great job. So I'm going to, let's see. Co-teach, I saw that one. How many activities do you send a special ed student a week? Depends on the level of the child and how much participation that you're going to get, and what specifically their goals are. And then and next week we're going to specifically address special education as well. So do you have you can have students pixelate themselves. Are you giving a recommendation? I'm not sure what the question is there. Pixelation can be a fun thing, or it can be their video's not great. Oh, you're talking about, I see what you're saying, Glendora, I got it. Yeah, they can make it so that they don't actually see themselves, but the camera's on and you can see them. You mentioned using 2 cameras. Is that something that's built in on the desktop? It depends on what you're using. Our particular platform has the option for a desktop camera, and you can, I said, it's interesting. If you go and you look at some of the OT sites on Facebook and LinkedIn, people are being really creative when it comes to that second camera, because documentation cameras are not inexpensive. I think the cheapest I've seen is $200 for a documentation camera, because they just have this stand and they're really cool. But you can do all kinds of things. I don't have a documentation camera. I use a second camera because I'm not an OT. I don't have to do it. I just grab it. It's an external camera and I can kind of point it on what I want that's going on my desktop. And the nice thing about that for us, for the Lighthouse Therapy platform, is you can make it so that it's upright. You can rotate it. So, all right. Yeah, we will send handouts definitely from this session. You'll get all of these slides. You'll get a couple of handouts from what Caroline has done and what Catherine's done. Catherine created the questions and Caroline did the how to get online. So we'll send those out. And then of course, we'll have the link to the next one, and we'll have a link to the recording. And if you have any other questions, we're going to have to stop because we're at 1:30. You can certainly reach out to me. This is the link to my calendar. Excuse me. I will be glad to help if you have specific questions that we have not answered. And like I said, we are going to have a survey. So if you have any suggestions for things beyond step 6 that you would like covered, I'm certainly open to doing some more. So the next one is, Chris, you want to go to the next slide? Yep. So week 5, I've said it, special education tips. Week 6, therapy services online. So look forward to seeing you guys next week. And I certainly do appreciate your attendance. And at the end of this one, I think the next slide is just some links we have to, yeah, there you go. Additional resources. So these are the links to each one of the ones that we've done so far. And then we also have the link to sign up for the next webinar as well. So thank you, everybody. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll see you next week.